Taking the step into minimalism and then going even further into pretty extreme minimalism, which is the territory I live in, can oftentimes be scary for people because they think when they let go of certain comforts or habits or belongings that it is going to feel like a strict state of deprivation and loss. But for me personally, this journey, the further I go along on it, it has always brought me to liberation, not deprivation. And there's never been anything I've let go of that I regret, or any way of being that I miss, or possession amount in my home that I miss having. Every step I take towards minimizing has always felt more freeing for me. And while I continue to follow this rabbit hole because it feels just right for my soul, there's actually been a lot of surprising side benefits. I've talked about certain things like money saving or peace of mind. And one of the ones I want to talk about today is the creativity surge that I have experienced from my journey into extreme minimalism. If anyone out there is an artist or labels themselves as such, whether you're a writer or a musician or a painter or any kind of creator of sorts, you know that creativity can come in waves and surges and almost manic energy to where it's just flowing out of you and it's so awesome. But then you could hit a wall or a total blockage of either days or weeks or months or sometimes years, which I had hit in my case. And it can feel like there's absolutely just no tapping into energy within you, and there's just nothing there. And you're like, damn, am I even an artist anymore? And it can feel just absolutely impossible to get to your craft. And me personally, I had been in this stage. I was tapering out of my career as a performing artist, and I was tapering out of my career as a choreographer as well. And I was at this sort of tipping point of how do I want to express myself in the world? And even if you do not label yourself as a creative type or an artist, and you have a normal job, but what is normal? Creativity is something everyone can have, and it feels good for everyone to have. And it doesn't have to be something grandiose like you did this Monet painting or whatever. It can come through in very simple ways in your life, and that's a natural thing. We are all creators as humans, even if you consider yourself the most black and white type, say you're an accountant or something, there is still creativity that can come out in many areas of your life, not just what you do for a living. And it doesn't have to be something big and monumental. It can be in little day-to-day things, but anything that gets you in touch with creatively and authentically representing your unique self in the world feels good. And for me personally, coming into this journey of extreme minimalism, I have definitely been able to tap into a creative side of my life that I wasn't expecting to, but it was much, much needed and waiting to come out, and it sort of removed the blocks in an unexpected way. So I'm going to share 5 ways that extreme minimalism has helped me tap into my creativity more as an artist and really just sort of lit the fire on something I thought was kind of extinguished. So if you are new here, thanks for hanging out today. Welcome to the Minimalist fam. And if you are returning and you missed me over the past week, it's been a week since I uploaded a video, which I think in modern YouTube land is not that long, but I've been uploading, I think 3-4 times a week for the past 5 months since I started this channel. And I had to take a little bit of a breather the past week because I have been mad hunting for an apartment like a crazy woman. I live in San Diego, which has been named the worst housing market in America, and it has been an absolute shit show trying to find somewhere to live. But I have news. I have found somewhere to live. I'm very excited about it. It is very different than what I envisioned, but different is good. Change is good. Getting out of your comfort zone is good. So stay tuned. I will have a packing / moving / new home tour coming in the next couple weeks, which is very exciting. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, here are 5 ways that extreme minimalism has fueled my creativity. I once again have my trusty journal here to keep me on track for this. I'll try to not make this a 30-minute video. I always say, oh, it's gonna be a quick one today, and then I somehow end up like verbal diarrhea for 30 minutes. So we're going to try and keep it a little tighter today. Let's see if you can stay with me. Okay, 5 ways extreme minimalism has fueled my creativity. Numero uno. Situational resourcefulness. What does that mean? When you're operating with a lot less, it can feel like nothing will get done and you think that you need all these things and to be creative, but I found actually when there's a lot less, it actually fuels creativity because you have less to work with, so you have to be more resourceful in that situation. So a couple examples of this. In my wardrobe, I only have about 30 items, which could seem very limiting to a lot of people, like, oh, you probably have like, very few outfits, like 5, 6 outfits to wear, but I have curated it in such a way that everything mixes and matches. And when there is less, it somehow for me has ended up as more, because I keep finding new ways to, maybe I can tie this shirt a certain way, or pull these sleeves up a certain way, or pair this top with that bottom that I didn't think would go together, but they actually look awesome together. Or I change out these shoes and now it's a totally different vibe for the outfit. And even though I only have 30 items, it feels like I have infinite ways to express myself. And if you are specifically interested in that, I do have a video titled How to Dress Up or Down Any Outfit. You can see some examples of that. But even something as simple as I have this Victoria's Secret bathrobe from like 100 years ago. It was meant as a bathrobe. I repurposed it to be like an outerwear kimono that's fancy. And then I started tying it up and wearing it as a blouse. So that's really just one example, but there's 3 different ways I can wear that. And then going around to, say, household items, I've showed my ghetto kind of camera setup. I am a creator on YouTube, but because I'm a minimalist, I do not want to have all the fancy different equipments and stands and lightings and props and whatever. So I just use whatever I have around my house to be able to film. And I filmed the other day, I had a end table with an upside down pasta pot and then a trash can on top of that to get the exact height I wanted. That's just one silly example, but that is in that moment, even though it's not an award-winning piece of art, if you will, in that moment, creativity strikes. It's, oh, do I need to go buy this certain thing to be able to film? It's no, look around the house. What do you have? It's not a lot, but you can find that even with not a lot, that's when the brain has to get more creative of like, okay, how can I problem solve with just these few things? Similarly, I took a survival course, which was really cool, by the way. It was super fun. But when you're out in the wilderness and you have very little gear on you, they teach you all sorts of ways to be able to like make a splint or to be able to start a fire with limited tools. And it's the same idea of you won't always have everything you need, but in that moment, that's where the human genius can kind of come out, is like, how can I pair just these few things to actually make what I need happen versus having a million specialty items on hand to make specific things happen. One last example of that is in my other apartment, I had a wicker basket, and when I moved in, there wasn't an appropriate like table or countertop to place my candle that I normally do. So my decorative basket, I flipped it over and that became my candle table. And again, is that award-winning creativity? No, it's not, but it's just a tiny example of like, okay, I've got this thing that used to do this thing, and rather than go out and buy something new, I can flip it around and now I have my candle table and I didn't spend any extra money. So situational resourcefulness, that is number 1. Number 2, seeing is believing. If you are a creative person, perhaps you can relate. You need space to create. And if you are in a very cluttered room, a cluttered house with all sorts of things around you, it has a very heavy energetic weight, and it can sort of, without you even realizing, it's kind of a claustrophobic energy. That's why so many writers will go rent a cabin in the mountains or just go out into nature, because your soul and your psyche and your imagination needs space to breathe. And if you are in a room with a ton of things weighing you down, it will be oppressive to you. And not to mention, it's actually just visual distraction and audio distraction. If you have the TV on, if you have just, constant social media scrolling in the background, or even if you have beautiful decorations in your home, like paintings and flowers and pots and pottery or whatever, like I used to have, those things are nice and inviting, but they draw your attention outwards, and you're looking at those things versus looking inwards at your own imagination. And particularly, not just if you're a painter, but if you're looking at all these beautiful things on the outside, you're going to have sort of a satisfaction with that, or it's just pulling your attention away. Versus, I live in a home that has bare walls, and some people say that it looks like a prison or insane asylum or whatever, and that's fine. They're allowed to have their opinion. But I found when I took away all of my paintings and things on the wall, that it actually just started getting my inner wheels turning of like, okay, well, what can I create that is beautiful? Especially as I used to be a choreographer for synchronized swimming. I was a competitive synchronized swimmer and a performing artist for a long time. And when there's nothing to look at the wall, it does pull the imagination inwards, and it can start sort of get your own wheels turning of what you would like to create. So seeing is believing. You need space, both for lack of distraction and just for energy to flow. You can breathe, and you can just come into center a lot easier when there's just not a lot of shit around you, to put it bluntly. So eloquent. Number 3, moving on here. Complacency is a slow death. I don't remember where I heard this quote. I don't remember. I think my dad might have said it at one point, or maybe I said it, or maybe I read it on some back in the day when I had Instagram, and it was like one of those motivational whatever meme posts. I don't know. I can't give a proper citing to that quote, but I do live by that quote. Complacency is a slow death. If you are too comfortable, if you have too many creature comforts around you, you are literally and figuratively going to become a couch potato. If you have all the accoutrements in your home, a lazy boy recliner and a big bowl of snacks next to you and a foot massager, or just your home set up in such a way that it is overly comfortable, most people would say that's a wonderful thing. And I'm not saying you should, set booby traps in your home and have spikes sitting around, but there is something to consider that if you come home and you've got this big comfy couch with all these comfy pillows waiting for you and a big nice TV ready to binge out on Netflix on, and you're just, everything's sort of too cozy, you can fall into complacency. When you come home from work, you can just sink into that couch, and rather than get your wheels turning on that business plan you wanted to start, or that paper you wanted to write, or that creative journal you wanted to do, or that painting you wanted to pick up, or sketching, or whatever sort of brainstorming you were hoping to do, if your home is overly comfortable and just inviting to veg out, which again, I've talked about slow living, pausing and vegging out is a good thing, but if your home is set up in such a way that that's all you do, it can sort of take away the motivation to create. And I mentioned I hadn't had a couch in 10 years. This last year is the first year I had a couch, but I had a chair that was very comfortable, and I worked very hard. I was working 2 jobs, and I would come home and just sit cross-legged in that chair and just tell myself I want to break through as an artist and whatever, but I was really just sort of sitting in my comfy chair. And this past sort of month of not having a couch and sitting on the floor, I've noticed some really big openings start to happen. And even in this past year, yes, I had a couch, but my home has been very cold, which that's a separate story. It doesn't have heat and it faces east. And so it's just it wasn't the coziest thing, but it was a good thing because I didn't just sort of lounge around. It forced me to be outside a lot more. And when I was home, it just, the lack of comfort pushed me into more of a creative space, if you will. So not saying get rid of everything comfortable in your home and just sit on the concrete and magic will happen, but experiment with it. Sit on the floor for a couple nights, or just, maybe don't get so cozy into your couch and go sit at a desk in your free time and see what comes out of that. I do think there's some magic there to be tapped into. Number 4. 86 influencers / drowning in distraction. I started alluding to this earlier. When you are so caught up in other people's lives and other people's stories, whether it's an Instagram influencer or a YouTuber, which I know there's total irony, I'm here on YouTube, but again, I'm hoping that you can just take little nuggets from this and then launch into curating your life of purpose and intention. But specifically with television, I think it's the most pernicious addiction. And movies can be wonderful, but there's at least stops and start points to movies. Like, it's hard to binge watch a movie, but television shows people get extraordinarily addicted to, and they can really reel you in. I used to have an extreme Grey's Anatomy problem. I would binge on that for hours, and I would come home on the weekends. This was back when I was in LA, and I was like trying to sink my teeth into something new and creative, but then I would watch Grey's Anatomy for 6 hours, and it was, man, did that shit pull me in, those stories. And I don't even know what's on TV these days, but people get so sucked into things. And yes, it can be entertaining and sometimes inspiring or like emotionally nourishing, and those are good things. But when you are so caught up in someone else's story, you will lose your own story. I'll say that again. If you are too caught up in other people's stories, whether it's a real person on social media, however real people really are on social media, I do my best to be authentic here, but it is still like, there's just a lot out there. But those are real people essentially sharing their real lives, however, whatever spectrum that falls on. If you are caught up in their lives or caught up in celebrities' lives on Instagram, and these are all people you don't know, and then caught up in the lives of fictitious characters on television, or caught up in gaming where you're just this avatar shooting things, where is your story? Where is your life? You get so much stimulus and excitement from these fictitious people or these celebrities or these influencers that you don't know, that it's kind of getting you this dopamine fix. But then it totally just bypasses the need to make your own life exciting, because you're getting this fix of excitement in these outside people. But that totally just destroys your ability to tune in and make your own life awesome. And people are often using these things as pacifiers because they don't feel awesome with their life. They do feel stuck in a dead-end job, or like their creativity is totally blocked, or perhaps certain, agitations in relationships are happening that they can't really face yet, or they're struggling with health or whatever. The list goes on and on and on and on. At the end of the day, it's good. The reason I'm on YouTube and no other platform is because I do think that there is some great inspiration accessible on the internet that is helpful tools you can take to launch into your own life. But there is a line between that and watching 7 hours of Netflix of fictitious people. And I think that really inhibits people from being able to tune in with, wait, what do I actually want out of life? What do I want to create out of life? And that's not an easy question to answer. And I've tapped into more creativity, but do I feel like I'm totally in this blissful state of expression of creativity every day and totally on point with what I'm doing with my life? Like, no, I'm still working as a bartender, and I don't even drink, and I work at a mall, and I'm a minimalist. I hate malls. So yeah, there's a lot more passion and purpose I need to cultivate in my life. I've got a lot more work to do, but at least I've pulled some creativity out of my life, a lot more creativity out of my life. When I really pulled back I put the brakes hard on social media, and specifically Instagram, and then really just binging on YouTube on other people's lives, and put the brakes on reading fiction, really, books, to getting lost in other stories. Again, there's great books out there. Literature is absolutely a better choice than television. But when I really put the brakes on getting caught up in other people's stories and fictitious people's lives, it really forced me to tune in with myself. And did it happen in a week or a couple days? No, this was sort of been months and months, and in some ways years. This was, it's been a building process of being able to extract myself from that addiction of getting my fix in other people's exciting stories, and trying to put all the focus in making my own story exciting. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to live vicariously through other people. I want my own life to be awesome. And if it's not awesome, and again, there's no utopian awesome. It's hard. There can be hard work and heartache and all of that, but on the path with doing what you want to do in your limited time on earth. That takes work. And if you are too caught up in other people's dramas, you will miss creating your own drama in a good way. So that is number 4. And lastly, coming to number 5, silence speaks the truth. I have another video titled How I Broke My Addiction to Stimulus, if you want to go further into how I extracted myself from all of these things. But as I pulled out from YouTube addiction and Instagram addiction and television addiction and just getting caught up in the world outside of me, what does that leave left? People often ask, what the hell do you do for fun if you've cut out all these things? You must be bored as hell or living like a monk. And I would say it's somewhere in between. I don't qualify myself as a monk, though I have great respect for them. I have moments of boredom, but that's been the most interesting thing is when you first come off of heavy stimulus addiction, you probably will either feel some combination of boredom or anxiety or a cocktail of both of those, because you're just so used to having every second of your brain pacified by stimulus that when you pull all of that away, you're forced to face yourself and sort of start to deal with your own bullshit. And you may be very anxious or very upset or very angry or very just unsure of how to spend your precious time on this earth and wanting to do something of meaning, but having no idea what to do. And I have heard people say that therapy or different therapies or therapists have helped them sort of figure that out. For me, it didn't. It was really just tuning out all of the noise and sitting and waiting and sitting and waiting and sitting and waiting. And eventually the first roadblock I came up against was anxiety, because I was just so used to being on a treadmill, but that eventually started to release. And then boredom started to set in because I felt more at ease, but I still felt like I should be doing something right now. And it's interesting, some of that was inherent, but a lot of it was judgment forced, because again, we have this in Western culture, we have this idea of you need to be, even if it is creativity, it's push, 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 go for your dreams, never stop and hustle. And so me stopping, I had this judgment of, oh, I'm a loser because I'm not doing anything right now. And it took some unpacking of that belief system. And when I did let that go, it's interesting, the boredom sort of fell away with that. And I really started to appreciate just being able to be in silence or be in nature, listening to the stream of the birds, or sit and be listening to music. Music for me is a huge fuel of creativity because I spent my life as a performing artist. I was a synchronous swimmer, dancer, and aerialist. So I spent my life connecting to music. But you don't have to be a physical performing artist to love and appreciate music. I think music is an incredibly healthy thing that will connect you to source and your soul and help you to tap into creative energy. But when I listen to music, I'm not also scrolling on something and doing this and doing that. It's just sitting and appreciating that music. But it's the pure silence is really where the magic happened. And it was really about from July to December last year, I made a very strong commitment of I am just gonna sit the fuck down and let creativity come through me and connect to source, and it will take as long as it takes. And it did take quite a while, and I felt very frustrated at some points and felt very, it was when I would pull out of it and, fall off the wagon, so to speak, and then start mad applying for jobs or mad scrolling on YouTube, like, someone tell me what to do with my life. I need another guru, or I need to watch another person who's figured out how to live off grid, or another person who figured out how to make their YouTube channel successful, or just binging on the outside, trying to find something that would give me the answers. And it never, ever did. It was when I came into full commitment of just really strong silence practice. And 2 things happen when you do that. Number 1, I do believe whatever your spiritual beliefs are or aren't out there, this is just my own experience of source, or whatever you want to call it, the universe. Some people call it God, some people call it Allah or Krishna or Buddha or Jesus or just, spirit, whatever you want to call it, whatever resonates with you. I'm speaking to an energy that is greater than yourself, coming through you. And for me, the only time I have really been able to tap into that on a very visceral level, on a very clear level, has been in complete silence, and then also deep into nature. I have done some extended road trips traveling where I just drove hours and hours through forests and mountains, and I definitely tapped into something there. I will be doing a separate video on that, but for me, it's you have to detract from everything on the outside to be able to let that energy come through you. And a question I've asked is, rather than just get caught up in the ego of I should do this type of creative thing, or I should do that, or I should be this person, I asked the question, what do you want to express through me? And not like it's a personified thing, like how do you quantify source? I don't know, no one knows, but those are just the words I'm using to be able to tap into this feeling of, what do you want to express through me? What is the highest thing that could be expressed through me? Because sometimes it's something bigger. Oftentimes, I would say it's something bigger than anything we could even imagine. So it's just sort of removing your ego and tuning out the noise and saying, what is the best thing that could be expressed through me at this point in my life to be on my highest path? And that's the meditation I go into. And that, I feel, has yielded something really powerful coming through. And I can feel when it's my head contriving something versus when I get out of the way and that energy is coming through and I'm doing work, but something's moving through me. And I hope, let me know if in the comments, any artists out there or creators or anyone that, you're doing anything in life. Maybe you're a coder. I know there's creativity in coding, that you get out of the way in your head and something bigger than you comes through you. And I do believe that silence is the greatest tool to tap into that. And the second thing that happens in silence, and I was talking about this earlier, and especially if it is your sort of preliminary stages in silence practice, is a lot of emotion is going to come up. In Buddhist practice, there is something called Vipassana, where they do these retreats. They're silent retreats, often 10 days, but some people will go hardcore and do like weeks or months in absolute complete silence. This is no talking, no connection to the outside world, no phone, no writing even, no music, just pure silence. And it can be completely brutal, but this is where some really deep healing can happen, because there's nothing blocking those suppressed emotions. Everyone watching this video, you probably have some sort of childhood trauma or life trauma in your life, or maybe generational trauma that's been passed down to you. And when you come into complete silence, that creates the space for these emotions to come up, and it can be very overwhelming and brutal, but this is where they can have the space to be processed and to be held and to heal. And also for me specifically as an artist, getting in touch with emotions that I had suppressed for so many years has actually been an incredible source of creativity, both with what I've done mostly with as a choreographer, but also as a dancer. These feelings come up and want to be expressed, and rather than suppress and say, no, I shouldn't feel this way, or I shouldn't feel guilty about what happened, or I shouldn't be angry anymore, honor the feeling and find a way to cherish it and just hold it and see it. And art is a wonderful way to do that. There's a reason why you hear the term tortured artist, and I don't wish that everyone be a tortured artist, because that has the connotation of just being in pain and suffering forever. And I hope everyone can heal from their pain and suffering in some regard, even though it is a lifelong practice. But in that moment, you can take that pain and suffering and transmute it, transfer it, transform it into something beautiful, whether it is a painting or a piece of choreography as a dancer, or maybe it's some word problem or a coding problem even. I can't speak to coding directly. I'm just using that because it has this association of being technical, but my friend who codes actually told me that there can be a lot of creativity in it. Or maybe it's gardening or singing or anything that speaks to your heart, whatever you think your creativity is, even if it's how you dress in the day, but you really want to express your soul to the world in whatever you put on your body. Like, that's a wonderful and great thing too. My point is, when you take away all of that distraction and allow those emotions to come up, they can be, even though they are mostly often painful, they can be a beautiful source for some wonderful art to come through, and that can be a great way to set them free from your psyche. Okay, so that is the video for today. I will end with, speaking of technology things I don't understand, and I don't know if it would be copyrighted, but I was going to insert this really cool picture of Steve Jobs sitting on a floor, but I don't know if I'm going to get like flagged because it's copyright, and also I don't know how to, whatever. So I was going to like do the thing in the screen. I don't know how to do that because I'm an idiot with technology, but look up the picture. It's a very famous picture. Steve Jobs sitting on the floor. It's when he was kind of in the earlier days of creating Apple, this, company that has transformed the entire world. And he's in his apartment, and he has like a stack of books and a lamp, and he's just sitting on the floor with like a teacup. And for him, he was obviously after later in life, he became a multi-billionaire and had this gigantic mansion, but in his prime creativity state, he was very connected to the idea and the practice of extreme minimalism, of taking away all of the comforts, all of the distractions on the outside, and just being able to connect with himself and with source and what wanted to come through him. So I relate to that picture hardcore. I saw it several years ago, and it is definitely the direction I am going in life. Will I change the world like Apple? Probably not. That'd be cool, but I'm trying to change the world in little tiny ways that I can with this channel. So that is it for today. Look up that picture. Thank you for watching. 31 minutes. I did it again. I had way too much of a long rant. If you stayed with me, thank you for watching this whole video, and I will see you again in the next one. Have a wonderful day. Bye.